The night everything cracked open didn't come with shouting, it came with stillness. The kind that sneaks up on you, the kind that makes your skin tighten before your mind understands why. I was standing at the sink, rinsing a mug that didn't need rinsing. My hands moved from muscle memory, not thought. When you've lived long enough, your body keeps working even when your heart is about to be dismissed. Behind me, the television murmured low. Somewhere in the apartment, the clock clicked forward like it always had, faithful, uncaring. Then my son-in-law cleared his throat, not loud, not angry, just enough sound to claim space. "Miss Laverne," he said. That's when I knew. He never used my name unless he was creating distance. I turned slowly. He was standing by the doorway, arms folded, weight shifted back on one heel like he'd already decided this conversation was temporary. Like I was, my daughter sat at the table, hands folded, eyes down. I waited for her to look up. She didn't. "You can't stay here anymore," he said. No build-up, no apology. Just dropped it between us like a plate he didn't plan to pick up if it shattered. I blinked once, not because I was confused, because my body needed a second to catch up to what my ears had already understood. "I'm a burden," I said quietly, testing the word in the air. He nodded, just once. That nod felt heavier than shouting ever could. I turned to my daughter then, not to beg, not to argue. Just to see if there was still a part of her willing to stand up straight. She gave a small nod too. That was worse. That nod told me this had already been discussed, already agreed on. Already cleaned up in private so it wouldn't be messy now. The room stayed quiet, too quiet. Life outside the window kept moving. A car passed, someone laughed on the sidewalk, the city breathing like nothing important had just died inside this apartment. My son-in-law exhaled, relief slipping into his shoulders when he realized I wasn't crying. "We need our space," he added, softer now. "We're trying to move forward as a family. Funny how that word gets sharp when it's used to cut someone out. I didn't respond right away. I set the mug down carefully, smoothed the towel once with my palm. I noticed things then, how my daughter never said my name. How her silence leaned toward him, how easily I'd been repositioned from mother to problem. He waited for me to plead. I didn't. Instead, something inside me went very still, not broken, not angry, aware. Because when people tell you you're no longer welcome in a place you helped hold together, believe them the first time. I met my daughter's eyes at last. She looked away, and in that moment I understood something that would change everything. They thought I had nowhere else to stand. They were wrong. Morning didn't ask permission. It came sliding through the blinds like it always did, thin lines of light cutting across the floor, landing on furniture that suddenly felt borrowed. The apartment smelled like coffee and yesterday's dinner, familiar, almost comforting, and that was what made it sting. Nothing looked different, but everything was. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long minute, listening. The soft clink of a spoon in a mug, the low hum of the refrigerator, footsteps, careful ones, moving around me instead of toward me. Nobody knocked on my door, that was new. When I finally stepped into the kitchen, my daughter was already there, back turned, hair pulled into a tight bun like she was bracing for impact. My son-in-law leaned against the counter, scrolling his phone, relaxed enough to whistle under his breath. Too relaxed? They both glanced up when they saw me, the way people do when they've decided to act normal and hope you'll follow along. "Morning," my daughter said. Her voice was polite, not warm. I nodded once and poured myself water. The glass shook just a little in my hand. I noticed. I didn't comment on it. My son-in-law didn't look up from his screen. "We're gonna need to make some changes," he said casually, "just to reset things." Reset like I was a glitch. He talked about the future as if I wasn't standing in the present. About space, about peace, about how couples need room to grow. He never once said thank you, never said we appreciate you. Because appreciation would have meant admitting I mattered. My daughter nodded along, small nods, careful ones, like agreeing without fully participating. At one point she brushed past me in the hallway and whispered, "He's just stressed." Stressed. That word always gets used to excuse cruelty when it wears a calm face. Later that afternoon, I heard them talking in the kitchen again, low voices, familiar patterns. My name floated into the conversation once, then disappeared. I stood still behind my bedroom door and listened without meaning to. "Ma said she can be ready by the weekend," my son-in-law said. "Ready for what?" "We'll give her the downstairs room," he continued, like he was assigning seating at a dinner party. I felt something cold move through my chest. They weren't just asking me to leave, they were already planning who would replace me. I stepped into the kitchen then. The conversation stuttered. My daughter's eyes flicked to me, then away. My son-in-law didn't stop talking, just shifted tone, dressed his words up softer. "It'll only be temporary," he said. "Family helps family." That word again, family, when it benefited him. I didn't respond. I rinsed a cup. Dried my hands slowly. That night after they went to bed, the apartment felt different, quieter, heavier, like it was waiting to see what I would do next. I opened the small drawer by the table, the one nobody ever touched, and pulled out a folder wrapped in an old rubber band. Receipts, documents, proof I'd never needed to show. I didn't open it. I just held it for a moment, because sometimes the power isn't in what you say, it's in what you finally stop hiding. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel scared. I felt clear. I didn't always know how to be quiet. That part surprises people. They look at me now, measured, careful with my words, and think I was born this way. Like silence was stitched into my bones. It wasn't. Silence was learned, earned the hard way. When my daughter was little, I worked 2 jobs and still came home smiling. Not because I wasn't tired, Lord knows I was, but because children feel exhaustion like guilt. I didn't want her growing up thinking she was too heavy to carry, so I carried everything lighter than it was: bills, worry, fear. I learned early that if you complain too loud, people start counting what you cost them. If you stay calm, they assume you're fine, and being fine keeps the peace. Peace was always my priority. When she moved out the first time, she cried over the phone about rent and deposits and grown-up problems she wasn't ready to say out loud. I didn't ask questions. I didn't lecture. I just asked where to send the money. I never told her how tight it made things for me. I didn't want her independence stained by my sacrifice. That habit followed me into this apartment. When she married him, I noticed how much he liked being the provider. How his chest puffed just a little when he talked about taking care of things. Men like that don't enjoy being helped, especially not by a woman old enough to remind them of their limits. So I helped quietly. If something needed fixing, I handled it before it became a conversation. If a payment needed smoothing over, I smoothed it. If something showed up handled already, nobody asked how, they just assumed. Assumptions are powerful. Dangerous too. Over time, my presence stopped registering as support and started registering as space being taken up. My silence, which once protected their pride, slowly erased my value. I became background, furniture. Something useful until it wasn't. The night he called me a burden, I realized how cleanly that transition had happened. There was no argument, no debate, just a decision made by people who believed they had leverage. What they didn't know, what I had never corrected, was that leverage goes both ways. The folder in that drawer wasn't dramatic. No secrets, no schemes, just records, agreements, things done properly, legally, quietly. I had never waved them around because love isn't supposed to require proof. But love also isn't supposed to nod while someone throws you away. That realization didn't come with rage, it came with grief. Grief for the daughter I thought I was protecting, grief for the version of myself that believed being low maintenance guaranteed safety. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and listened to their breathing down the hall. His was deep. Untroubled, hers was shallow, uneven, like guilt was tapping her shoulder and she was pretending not to hear it. I didn't sleep much, but I did decide something. I wasn't going to argue for my worth, I wasn't going to explain myself. And I wasn't going to stay somewhere I had to shrink to survive. Morning would come, it always does. And when it did, they were going to learn something quiet women know better than anyone: silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's just the pause before everything changes. Morning arrived like it hadn't witnessed a thing. Sunlight slipped through the blinds. The kettle whistled. My daughter moved around the kitchen with that careful energy people use when they're hoping yesterday evaporated overnight. I watched from the doorway. She didn't look at me right away. "Coffee?" she asked, already reaching for a mug. Not "how are you?" not "did you sleep?" just "coffee." I shook my head. "I'm fine." The lie slid out easy. Years of practice will do that. My son-in-law walked in a few seconds later, dressed and confident, keys already in his hand. He glanced at me, nodded once, then went straight for the coffee like nothing had shifted in the world. That told me everything. When people think they've won, they stop watching closely. I went back to my room and closed the door, slow and deliberate, sat on the bed, picked up my phone. The screen lit up with the same quiet notification it always did. No drama, no warning signs, payment scheduled, confirmed. I stared at it longer than I needed to, not because I was angry. Because I was done pretending I didn't know what I was holding. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't announce a plan. I didn't cry into a pillow or call a friend to vent. I did what I've always done when something mattered. I handled it. First, I made a call, a simple one, professional, no emotion attached. The woman on the other end spoke clearly, efficiently, like she dealt in facts, not feelings. Yes, we can do today. Yes, we'll send confirmation. I thanked her and hung up. Then I opened my closet. I pulled out the suitcase I hadn't used in years, the sturdy one with the quiet wheels. I laid it open on the bed and started with the essentials. Medication, documents, the folder I packed neatly, no rushing. No shaking hands. Down the hall I could hear them talking, laughing at something on a screen. The sound drifted into my room like static. They didn't know yet, that was the strange part. I carried the first box out just as my daughter appeared in the hallway. She stopped short when she saw it, confusion flickering across her face. "What are you doing?" she asked. Not "where are you going, what are you doing?" I walked past her and set the box down in my room without answering. She stood there a moment longer, then glanced toward the living room where her husband sat, relaxed, unaware. She didn't call out to him, she didn't follow me. She just watched. That hurt more than his words ever could. By the time the knock came, sharp and professional, the boxes were stacked. The apartment smelled faintly of cardboard and tape. I opened the door. Two men stood there with clipboards and calm faces. One smiled politely. "Morning, ma'am, you're on the schedule." "Yes," I said, "come on in." Behind me I heard my daughter gasp softly. My son-in-law appeared in the doorway, eyebrows lifting like this was a joke he hadn't been told the punchline to yet. "Movers?" he asked, forcing a laugh. "What's all this?" I didn't answer him. I stepped aside and let the men walk past. That's when I felt it, the shift. The moment control slipped from hands that thought it owned the room, and I knew then with absolute certainty this wasn't going to go the way they planned. The movers didn't rush. That was the first thing I noticed. They moved with the kind of calm that comes from doing a job the same way every time, no matter what kind of mess lives inside the walls. Clipboards out, pens clicking. Shoes covered before they stepped past the threshold, professional. Respectful. My son-in-law hated that. He stood off to the side, arms crossed now, watching like he was trying to calculate how to regain control without looking like he'd lost it. My daughter hovered near the kitchen, hands pressed together so tight her knuckles went pale. "Y'all can hold up a second," he said, laughing again. "This a family situation." The taller mover looked at him once, then looked back at me. "Where would you like us to start, ma'am?" That one word, "ma'ams," did something to the room. It pulled the air toward me. I pointed to my bedroom. "Start there." They nodded and moved past him like he was furniture. My daughter swallowed hard. "Mama, where are you going?" she asked finally, her voice shook. I kept my eyes on the mover wrapping my dresser in padding. "I've got it handled," I said. "Handled, not don't worry, not I'll explain later, handled." My son-in-law stepped closer, lowering his voice like he was doing me a favor. "You don't gotta do all this," he said. "You can stay until you figure something out." Figure something out, like I was confused, like I hadn't been clear. I didn't respond. Silence does something to people who rely on volume. They start talking to fill it. "You acting out," he added louder now. "This unnecessary." The mover paused and glanced at me. "Everything okay, ma'am?" I nodded. "Everything's fine." That's when I saw it on my son-in-law's face, not anger, uncertainty. He wasn't used to people checking with me. The sound of furniture shifting filled the apartment, soft thuds, the squeak of a dolly, tape tearing. Each sound landed like punctuation in a sentence he hadn't written. My daughter finally stepped forward. "Can we just talk?" she whispered. I looked at her then, really looked. Her eyes were shiny but dry. That old familiar look, the one that asked me to fix something without making her uncomfortable. I shook my head gently. "There's nothing to talk about." Her lips parted. She didn't argue. The movers carried my chair, the one I sat in every morning, past the living room. My son-in-law watched it go like he was seeing a piece of the apartment detach itself. That chair had always been there, so had I. Outside, the truck door opened with a heavy clang. My son-in-law flinched. "You didn't have to go this far," he muttered. "We family." Funny how that word shows up when power starts slipping. Then his phone buzzed. He checked it quickly, expecting something small, dismissible. His face changed, just a flicker at first. Then his shoulders stiffened. My daughter noticed immediately. "What is it?" she asked. He didn't answer her. He stared at the screen like it had betrayed him. Then his phone rang. He answered with forced cheer. "Hello?" The voice on the other end spoke calmly, too calmly I didn't hear the words. But I watched understanding spread across his face like cold water, and I knew the story he'd been telling himself was about to collapse. He stepped away from the couch when the phone kept ringing. Not far, just enough to pretend privacy still existed. "Yes, this is Marcus," he said, voice smooth, practiced. "How can I help you?" I watched him from the hallway, hands resting on one of my boxes. The movers worked quietly behind me, respectful enough not to stare, experienced enough to know when a house was holding its breath. The voice on the other end didn't raise itself, didn't rush, didn't apologize. That's how I knew it wasn't a favor call. Marcus nodded once, then again. His smile faded in stages like someone slowly dimming a light. My daughter drifted closer to him, confusion tightening her face. "Who is it?" she whispered. He lifted a finger without looking at her. He said into the phone. "Yes, I understand." He didn't, not yet. The voice kept going. I saw his jaw set. His posture changed, shoulders squaring, chin lifting, the stance he used when he felt challenged. "But I pay the rent," he said too quickly. That word "I" came out sharp. Silence followed, then more talking from the other end. Marcus swallowed. "Yes, she lives here, that's my wife." "And her mother?" His eyes flicked toward me for the first time since the movers arrived. Not with anger, with calculation. My daughter's face drained of color. "What's going on?" she asked again, louder now. Marcus covered the phone with his hand and leaned toward her. "They're asking about the lease," he hissed. "About income." Her eyes widened. "Income?" He pulled the phone back. "Look, this gotta be some kind of mix-up," he said. "We qualified when we moved in." The response was calm, firm, final. Marcus nodded again, slower this time. His confidence began to fray at the edges. "So you're saying," he stopped, listening. "You're saying if she moves out," he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The answer landed anyway. His shoulders dropped, not dramatically, just enough. My daughter grabbed the back of the couch, steadying herself. "Marcus," she whispered, fear slipping into her voice. He ignored her. "No," he said into the phone, shaking his head like reality might change if he disagreed hard enough. "That don't make sense. I'm the one working." "I'm the one," the voice cut in. Marcus went quiet, the kind of quiet that happens when a man realizes the ground he's been standing on isn't solid. "Yes," he said finally. "I understand." He ended the call and stood there for a second, staring at his phone like it had personally insulted him. My daughter looked between us. "What did they say?" she asked. Marcus didn't answer right away. He glanced at my boxes. "At the movers, at me. They said," he began slowly, "that if you leave, the lease goes under review." Her breath caught. "Review?" He nodded. "They said the household qualified because of combined income." I stayed silent, let the truth breathe. "They said," he continued, voice tightening, "that without you, we might not qualify." There it was. The room shifted, not loudly, internally. My daughter turned to me, eyes wide now, searching my face like she was seeing it for the first time. "Mama," I didn't answer. Marcus took a step toward me, softer now. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" The question almost made me laugh, almost. Instead, I said, "You never asked." The movers rolled another piece of furniture past us, the wheels squeaking softly. Life moving forward whether anyone was ready or not. Marcus ran a hand over his face. "We can fix this," he said quickly. "You don't have to leave today." My daughter nodded too fast. "Yeah, we'll talk. We'll figure it out, figure it out." Funny how that phrase comes back around. I rested my hand on the taped box beside me. "I already have." And for the first time since this began, neither of them knew what to say. The doorbell rang before either of them recovered. Not a soft chime, a firm, expectant press. The kind that assumes it belongs. Marcus stiffened. My daughter's head snapped toward the door like she already knew who it was. Her hands trembled as she wiped them on her jeans. "I thought they weren't coming until the weekend," she whispered. Marcus didn't answer. He walked to the door with a smile he hadn't earned and opened it wide. His mother stood there, purse tucked under her arm, eyes already scanning the living room like inventory. Behind her, a car idled, trunk open, suitcases visible. "Oh good," she said, stepping inside without waiting. I was starting to think y'all forgot. Her gaze landed on the movers, then the boxes, then me. The smile faltered just enough. What's all this? She asked. Marcus laughed too quickly. Just rearranging some things. She raised an eyebrow. Behind her, one of his cousins walked up with a phone in hand, irritation already etched into his face. Hey, he said, stepping inside. Leasing office told us to check in before bringing anything up. The room went still. Marcus turned. What office? The cousin lifted his phone. They said occupancy's under review, said nobody else can move in yet. My daughter's hand flew to her mouth. Marcus's smile collapsed. Who told you that? He demanded. The office, the cousin replied. They said something changed. Something changed, that was one way to put it. His mother's eyes narrowed. Roland, she said slowly, using his full name like a warning. You told me this was handled. He opened his mouth, closed it. The movers rolled another box toward the door. The squeak of the dolly echoed like judgment. Why are movers here? His mother asked. Marcus glanced at me, then back at her. She's being dramatic, he said, too fast. She decided to. Dramatic, his mother repeated. My daughter looked at the floor. The cousin set a suitcase down. So where we putting our stuff? Silence. Real silence. Marcus swallowed. We gotta figure some things out. That's when embarrassment walked in and took a seat, not yelling, not chaos, just the slow understanding that promises had been made without permission. His mother shook her head. You had us packing, she said. You had us driving over here. Marcus tried to recover. It's just a delay. Her eyes cut to him sharp. A delay is when traffic slows. This is you not having a place. The family began backing out one by one, not angrily, disappointed. That hurt more. Cars pulled away, the door closed, and suddenly Marcus wasn't the man in charge anymore. He turned toward me then, voice lower, posture smaller. Miss Laverne, can we talk? My daughter stepped forward, tears finally spilling. Please, she whispered. I looked at them, really looked, at the man who dismissed me. At the daughter who nodded along, and I felt something settle deep in my chest. Not revenge, resolution. The movers waited, respectful and quiet. I didn't answer them yet, because the hardest part wasn't leaving. It was watching them realize what they'd already lost. Marcus stood there with his hands open, palms facing up. That posture was new. It wasn't confidence. It wasn't authority. It was bargaining. Let's just slow this down, he said, voice careful now, like he was walking across thin ice. Nobody needs to make a decision today. Nobody. The word floated between us, pretending the decision hadn't already been made for me. My daughter wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand. Mama, we didn't mean for it to go like this, she said. It just got messy. Messy, like feelings spill on their own. Marcus nodded quickly, grabbing onto her words. Exactly. Things got out of hand. Out of hand, not I was wrong, not I disrespected you, just a situation that somehow happened to him. I stayed still. The movers shifted their weight, eyes politely down, waiting for my cue. The truck sat outside, engine quiet but ready, like it understood patience. Marcus took a step closer. You know I respect you, he said. I always have. The lie came easy. Practice makes things sound smooth. My daughter flinched but didn't correct him. That hurt more than the lie itself. If you just stay, he continued, lowering his voice, we can fix the lease thing, we can handle it together. Together, that word showed up late, too late. My daughter reached for my arm but stopped short, unsure if she was allowed. Please, she whispered again, don't do this. Do what? Protect myself, leave a place where I'd been reduced to a line item. I looked at her then, really looked. She wasn't cruel, she was afraid of conflict, afraid of choosing, afraid of what her life looked like without someone quietly absorbing the weight. I raised you to stand on your own, I said softly, her lips trembled. I am standing, I nodded once, then stand. Marcus's face tightened. So you just gonna walk out, he asked, irritation slipping back in. After everything, there it was, the switch, apology fading into accusation. After everything they allowed, I turned toward the movers. We're ready. The taller one nodded. Yes, ma'am. That word again, ma'am. It landed harder than any insult. My daughter gasped softly. Mama, I picked up my purse. Checked once to make sure my keys were inside, not rushed, not dramatic. Marcus followed me to the door. You're making this harder than it has to be, he said. I paused with my hand on the frame. No, I replied quietly. I'm making it clear. The movers carried the last box past us. The door stayed open. Outside air rushed in, cool and clean, like a reset that didn't ask permission. My daughter stood frozen in the middle of the living room, arms wrapped around herself. Marcus looked smaller now, not defeated, exposed. As I stepped outside, I felt the weight lift, not because it didn't hurt, but because it finally wasn't mine to carry alone. The truck pulled away slow, not dramatic, not triumphant. Just steady. I watched the apartment building shrink in the side mirror until it became another block, another corner, another place I no longer belonged to. The driver asked if the temperature was okay. I nodded. The radio played something soft and familiar, the kind of song you don't notice until it ends. That's what leaving felt like. Quiet. I expected a rush of relief, or anger, or grief so heavy it would fold me in half. What I got instead was a strange calm, the kind that settles after a long fever finally breaks. My phone buzzed once, then again. I didn't look. Some messages don't need to be read to be understood. The city moved around us like it always had, people walking dogs, buses sighing at stops, kids laughing too loud on sidewalks. Life didn't pause for my heartbreak, it never does, and there was comfort in that. When we stopped at a light, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked older, not in a bad way. I looked like a woman who had made a decision and wasn't waiting for permission to live with it. The driver pulled into the new place, smaller, quieter, clean in a way that hadn't been touched by expectation yet. The building didn't impress, it didn't need to, it just stood there solid, minding its business. Inside, the walls were bare. The rooms echoed slightly, my boxes stacked up in corners like unopened chapters. The movers worked efficiently, asking where I wanted things. I told them and they listened. That mattered more than it should have. When they finished, the taller one handed me the clipboard. "You all set, ma'am?" I signed, tipped them well, thanked them sincerely. After the door closed, the silence returned. But this time it didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space. I sat on the edge of the bed, mattress still stiff, sheets crisp, and let myself breathe, really breathe. The kind you forget how to do when you're making yourself smaller for other people. My phone buzzed again. I checked it this time. A message from my daughter. "Are you safe?" I stared at the screen for a long moment, then I typed back, "Yes," nothing else. Another message came quickly. "Can we talk later?" Later. That word felt different now. It didn't feel like delay. It felt like choice. I set the phone down without responding, not to punish her, but because I needed to hear my own thoughts before I heard anyone else's. I unpacked slowly, not everything, just what I needed for the night: my lamp, my robe, the small picture frame with a photo of us when she was 10, missing teeth, big grin, arm thrown around my waist like I was unmovable. I placed it on the dresser and turned it face down, not because I didn't love her. Because love doesn't mean erasing yourself. That night, lying in a new bed, listening to unfamiliar pipes knock and sigh, I realized something that surprised me. Freedom doesn't announce itself. It doesn't clap. It just shows up quietly and waits to see if you're brave enough to sit with it. I woke up before the alarm, not from noise, from clarity, the kind that settles in your chest when your life finally lines up with the truth. Sunlight crept across the wall of my new room, soft and undecided. I made tea and sat at the small table by the window, steam rising, hands steady. For the first time in a long while, nothing in the room belonged to someone else's expectations. My phone buzzed, an email. Subject line: account update, action required. I opened it slowly. It wasn't dramatic, no bold red warnings, just clean language and dates, a confirmation that the change had been processed. A reminder of what happens when names are removed and incomes are recalculated. Paperwork doesn't argue, it remembers. Another email followed. Then another. By the third, the shape of the truth was clear. The apartment hadn't just qualified because of me, it had relied on me, my credit history, my records, my consistency. The lease didn't wobble because I left. It revealed what had always been holding it upright. I took a breath and forwarded the emails to a folder labeled records. Not to wave them, not to threaten, just to keep them where facts belong. The phone rang. My daughter. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hello," her voice came out small. "Mama, are you okay?" "I am," I said and meant it. There was a pause, then a shaky inhale. "They sent us notices," she said. "Marcus is talking to the office. They said," her voice cracked, "they said we might have to move." I stayed quiet, not to punish her, to let the words finish their work. "He didn't know," she added quickly, like she was trying to outrun the truth. "He didn't know how much you were helping." I closed my eyes. That's the problem, I said gently. He didn't know because nobody wanted to know. Silence stretched. Then she whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" I looked around my new place. Bare walls, open boxes, possibility everywhere. "Because you didn't ask," I said again, "and because I thought love meant not making you uncomfortable." She cried then, soft at first, then harder. "I messed up," she said. "I should have stood up for you. Yes, I thought you should have, but I didn't say it out loud." "We'll figure it out," she said, echoing the phrase that used to mean I'll handle it. "Not anymore." "I believe you will," I replied. "But I won't be there to cushion it." She went quiet again. "Mama, can you come back? Mama, can you come back?" The words hung there, fragile and hopeful, like if she said them soft enough they might undo everything. I didn't answer right away, not because I was being cruel, because some questions deserve the weight of silence before they get a response. Outside my window, a bus hissed to a stop. Somewhere below, a woman laughed into her phone. Life kept doing what it always does, moving forward without waiting for anyone to catch up. "I love you," I said finally, her breath hitched on the other end. "I know, but love isn't the same as safety," I continued, voice steady. "And it isn't the same as respect." She didn't interrupt me this time. "I can't come back to a place where I was only valued when I was useful," I said. "I can't live somewhere my dignity depends on someone else's mood." A long pause. Then her voice, quieter than I'd ever heard it. "Marcus is scared." I almost smiled. That was new. "He should be," I said gently. "Fear teaches lessons pride never will." She didn't argue, she didn't defend him. That told me more than anything else she could have said. "We don't know what we're going to do," she admitted. "They're giving us 30 days to requalify or find something else." 30 days, enough time to feel the consequences fully. "I believe you'll figure it out," I said again. "You're stronger than you think. I raised you that way." Her voice broke. "I just didn't realize how much you were holding together." Neither did I, not until I stopped. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet and let the ache come. Because even when you choose yourself, loss still hurts. Walking away doesn't erase love, it just redraws the boundaries around it. That afternoon, I unpacked the rest of my things. Each item felt lighter in my hands, like it belonged to me again, like it wasn't being tolerated but welcomed. That evening, I cooked a simple meal, ate at my own table, washed my own dish, no tension in the air. No performance required. Before bed, I flipped the picture frame back over. I looked at my daughter's smile and whispered, "I hope you learn this faster than I did." A week passed. Then two, my phone stayed quiet longer than I expected. When it rang again, it wasn't my daughter, it was Marcus. I stared at the screen for a moment before answering. "Yes." His voice sounded different, not confident, not sharp, smaller. "Miss Laverne," he said. I wanted to apologize." I leaned back in my chair. "Go on." There was a pause, a breath. "I was wrong about everything." I let that land. "They couldn't requalify," he continued. "We're moving into something temporary." "Smaller, temporary," that word again. "I didn't realize how much you were doing," he said. "I didn't see it." "No," I replied. "You didn't." Another pause. "I disrespected you," he said, "and I'm paying for it." That part was true. "I'm not calling to ask you to fix anything," he added quickly. "I just needed you to know I see it now." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "I accept your apology," I said, "but understanding doesn't undo harm. It just keeps you from repeating it." "Yes, ma'am," he replied, that word again, different this time. After the call, I sat quietly and noticed something surprising. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. My daughter came by one afternoon unannounced. She stood in my doorway like she wasn't sure she belonged there anymore. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. She looked around slowly, the small space, the calm. The way everything felt intentional. "You look lighter," she said. "I am." She sat at the table, folded her hands the way she used to when she was little and didn't know how to say what she needed yet. "I'm learning," she said. "It's hard." "But I'm learning." I nodded. "Good." She reached for my hand. This time I let her. "I'm sorry I didn't choose you when it mattered," she whispered. I squeezed her fingers. "You're choosing differently now. That matters too." We sat there a long time. No fixing, no rescuing, just two women learning how to stand on their own feet together but not tangled. Some endings don't close with noise, they close with space. Months later, my life settled into a rhythm that belonged to me. Mornings with tea, evenings with books, neighbors who knew my name, a home that didn't ask me to shrink. My daughter visits sometimes. She calls first, that matters. Marcus stays polite, distant, careful, that matters too. I don't carry anger with me, I carry clarity. Because here's the truth I learned too late, but not too late to live by. If your presence is only tolerated, it's not love. If your silence is expected, it's not peace. And if your worth disappears the moment you stop giving, it was never truly seen. I didn't leave angry, I left awake. And that quiet, that's the sound of a woman finally choosing herself. If this story touched something deep inside you, please don't scroll away just yet. Speech balloon, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace? And if you were in her place, would you have left too? Thumbs up, like this video if this story felt real to you. Bell, subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Each one carries a truth someone needs to hear, because sometimes the strongest goodbyes are spoken in silence. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next story.